If I give you £500,000 today and I ask one question, would you leave it exactly as it is to your children? Your answer may be yes, probably. But if you ask me, I wouldn't. And that is not because I do not love my children enough. It's actually fairly the opposite. It is because it is easy to leave money, but quite difficult to prepare people to manage that estate. Therefore, today we're going to do a little bit of a practicality. Let's assume I have £500,000 in my estate and I intend to pass it on to my generation. I have got 3 kids for the context of what I'm about to do with you. My eldest child is 11-year old, and so I am going to break this down as per my current story. And I want to believe if you are at the other side, this is something that may be applicable to you. Now, this is no theory, no emotions attached here. This is no motivational speaking. This is practically what I would do. Let's get straight into the plan. The first thing I wouldn't do is to hand over £500,000 cash to my children. I will never do this. The reason is because money without a direction actually disappears. And so we need to plan it with purpose and clarity. Therefore, for this £500,000, I am going to divide it into 5 sections. So for plan 1, the first £200,000 goes straight into a property. This is me buying the property outright, paying for it and ensuring that there is no debt on that property. Well, there may be expenses here and there. That is fine. Someone may ask why a property. Personally, if you ask me, it is not a luxury, but everyone needs a place to live. Therefore, whether my children decide to live in that property, whether they decide to rent the property, or eventually later in life, they decide to sell that property, well, I have set them up. And to me, that is the foundation. That is the baseline I can give my children. And so that first £200,000 goes straight into a property. Once again, it is no luxury to me at all. It is just me laying the foundation. One plan, that's it. So for plan 2, remember we have already spent £200,000 in property. And so the next £100,000 goes straight into investment. And for the purpose of this, what investment am I talking about? I am talking about a low-cost global index funds. No high risk, no highly volatile all over the place, but stable, low-cost index fund. That is what the next £100,000 go in. If you ask me why, yes, property is great, but I want my kids to have diversification. Therefore, I do not want to expose them to only one asset class. Yes, property has its place. Shares has its place. And diversification also has its place. For plan 3, the next £50,000 will be in cash. And for these purposes, I will divide the cash into 2. A half of it is going to go straight into a high yield savings account. And the next £25,000 is going to go straight into premium bonds. Yes, I said it, premium bonds. That is where I'll keep the half of it. Now, someone may ask why? Because of emergencies. Life happens. We are not promised of what the next problems will be. Jobs may be lost. The cars may break down. There may be some adaptation that needs to be made to a property. So considering all of these, I do not want them to sell their investments in the stock market because they do not have enough funds to quench their fires. So I need that breathing space. Investments should take its place. Property should take its place, but cash for emergencies. But the emphasis here is ensuring that this cash is not derailing or eroding based on inflation, but then being put in places that will also maximize the inflationary percentage that takes place. And so one half goes into a high yield savings account and another into a premium bond where they will wake up one day and become millionaires. All right, so for plan 4, this is where I get a little bit controversial and a lot of you are gonna chastise me on this, but I hold my head high in all humbleness and I'll still say this. Remember, we have already spent £350,000, £200,000 in recap went into property. Another £100,000 went into investment, specifically shares. £50,000 we have kept in cash. And so the next £50,000 will go into education. Now, remember I said my eldest child is 11-year-old. And so in education, I want to believe by the time they get to the tertiary side, then there is a £50,000 for their education. Now, my kids at that level, with exception of a child choosing medicine or biochemist, is not going to go to the university. Yes, I said it. Let me breathe here. And I'm not sure you heard me. I'm not talking about university education. Except the child is choosing the field of medicine, then by all means, my hands are lifted higher. I say this in all humbleness. Now, you may be wondering, why do I say this? I do not want the child to finish 4 years, 3 years in education and have 80,000 pounds of debt. No, that is not how I'm setting my kids up. See, I'm getting a little bit emotional and passionate about this. So let me breathe it in. My kids are going to go for skills, professional qualifications, mentoring. They are going to go for any education that adds up to their capacity. That is what the focus line is. Once again, it is not me deciding, but remember, I am building them with certain grounding values and standards, even as young as they are. That is why I encourage parents to get mentors for their children. Go to my stand store. If you are not the right fit, you don't always have to be the right fit, because we are not always perfect anyway. But if someone has some services, it is better you invest in that services for that child. Go on my stand store. I have a 1 month full session, 4 times in a month for the young ones. I don't care the age of this child. I just said to you that my eldest is 11, but yet prone in this field I am talking about. Book that session for the child, 1 session per week, but it's for 1 month. So 4 sessions in a month. Believe you me, by the time the child completes this session with myself, the child language is going to change. And I say this with the leading of the Holy Spirit, not by my own accord. It isn't about my qualification. It's about some gifts and God has deposited in some of us that we do well when in transferring to the other side. So yes, the child must have a projective plan to where they want to get to. But all I'm trying to say is, instead of choosing the educational route with the university tertiary side, I'd rather my child goes through apprenticeship. You want to be a pilot? Let's do that through apprenticeship. You want to be an engineer? Let's do that through apprenticeship. So you see, we are not ruling out the odds. You want to be a lawyer? Let's do that through the apprenticeship. You see, you are wondering, well, the child, there is a route to get into the same destination. You want to be a solicitor? A same route to the same destination. The only exception to my rule is health, medicine. That's it. Otherwise, no child of mine is going to go through that route and incur 80,000 pounds. That is even me being charitable. In debt. Why? Because the child went to school. Is that how we are setting the children up? No. But there are other opportunities. Maybe we want to look there. So once again, 50,000 pounds goes into their education. And I'm talking about education for 3 kids. Apprenticeship. The other side. And finally, the 5th plan, and this is where a lot of people may disagree with me. Once again, you owe that right. I don't change that narrative. So I am grateful. Remember, I said my eldest child is 11 years old. And we have already spent how much? 400,000 pounds out of the 500,000 pounds. So the remaining 100,000 pounds is not going to go to the kids. It's going to go straight into a trust I would have set up. Now, why? I'm not going to hand over 100,000 pounds to a child who is not matured. That 100,000 pounds will come with responsibility. So I need the 100,000 pounds to be in a trust. And when the child is 21 and older and matured, there is going to be a clause. Then the child can have access to that funds. Once again, cash projections must come with responsibility. How do we have this responsibility? Maturity moves in, and then a proper direction can take place. And so a trust is where the next 100,000 pounds will go. And you may say, all right, how about if your child never lived to be 21 to take over this? It is fine. That is why there's something called a will. And there's something called an estate. When we do an estate, we don't do it only for one person who takes child. There's something that we can actually see, but we can project. So the unforeseeable things, you plan for that in that will. So in the absence of that. In the absence of this person, that is how a proper plan must be. This is how a proper will must be written. Once again, go to my son's or Yacht Finance or send me an email, yachtfinance25@gmail.com. Now, you may think I have planned it into 5 folds, 5 sessions, 5 plan. And so we are done. I haven't given you the biggest part yet. Let's move into the biggest part. Give my children is something I call a process run through. And this is something you should be doing at the other side. Now, every month I sit with my children, as young as they are, and we talk about money. We talk about tax. We talk about investing. We talk about giving. We talk about mistakes. Or we talk about businesses. Yes, I know you'd be wondering, the child is so young. Why are you talking about all of these big things? Yes, I talk about money. Once again, I talk about investing. I talk about tax. I talk about the economy. I talk about policies. I talk about mistakes. And I talk about businesses. I do this because I don't just want children to inherit assets. I want them to also inherit judgment, which is part of life. Therefore, the ability to make good financial decisions, the ability to recover after bad financial decisions, their ability to recognize opportunity, their ability to walk away from bad opportunities, and finally, their ability to choose their friends. Those things don't come inside a will. So if someone asks me, Yat, what is the best inheritance you can leave your children? I did answer. I will leave them properties. I'll leave them assets. I'll leave them investment. But you see, whilst building all of these, ensure you build those you intend to manage these assets. The reason is because we are talking about generational transfer. So wealth today, move tomorrow, build on, move to the next, build on, move to the next. And so the people to carry all of this through needs to be built. In fact, for a want of a better world, you can even start building with them. So once upon a time, in that business meeting, can the child sit in that meeting? That is fine. The children don't always have to play with their peers. Be in these conversations. When you're going on the golf course, take that child. When you're going to play football, take the child. Sometimes when you're having these healthy conversations, let a child be around. Listen to these conversations. Yes, it is fine. The reason is because we know where to draw the line. Once again, I know some of you may disagree with me, and that is fine. Like I said, I don't control that narrative, and so it is all yours. But this is Yacht Finance. Everything I put out here is practical. That is the difference. I can't wait to see you at the top. If you haven't followed or subscribed to this channel, by all means, do me the honor, humbleness, and do. And I would love to know, what would you do with £500,000 if you have to live with your children? God bless you, and I'll see you in the next.